Yes, what's happening, people? What's happening, folks? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the home of the Premier League champions. Yes, sir. The Arsenal Football Club 2026 Premier League champions. I ain't gonna let anyone forget it. You ain't gonna let anyone forget it. We're here. We're here, people, all summer long. Arsenal are Premier League champions. Don't let the World Cup distract you from that fact. Well, listen, ladies and gentlemen, like I always say, and like I tend to say on each and every video that we do on our episodes with the boys, Laurent and Murdad, we recorded an episode last night, episode 112, that's coming out on the channel now shortly, so keep an eye out for that. But like and subscribe, as I always say, right? That's how we start this one off. Like and subscribe, hype the video, do all that good stuff for us. We're growing, we're expanding. As I mentioned also in that episode that we're putting out shortly. I want to reiterate as well to those that we met on Saturday in the event in Toronto, the Back Your Chat event held by the Big Six, who came down from London, from the UK in Toronto. They held a brilliant event in Toronto on Saturday, and yeah, man, it was great vibes. Obviously, the World Cup is in Toronto, so there's a good football vibe around the city right now. And yeah, the Big Six came down and did Back Your Chat. Coming all the way from England, so big up to them. And they brought out a whole bunch of fans all over Toronto. A lot of Arsenal fans, obviously. We're running things right now, and so big up to all the Arsenal fans we met. Big up to all the people that we met in general. Just good vibes in that football community event. And this is why we love the game, right? It brings out fans that you meet all over the world, all over the city, people that you never would have met otherwise. But, football has that ability to just draw people out. And then you just connect with so many people, so many like-minded people. So yeah, shout out to all the people that we met in that event. Me and Laurent obviously went to go represent for the Gunners Corner. And yeah, man, it was a good time. Many more to come. Hopefully, more networking events will all be out there connecting. So like and subscribe, keep it locked with us. We are here and we are, continuing to progress and move on and move upwards. But this video, right, just quickly, I wanted to quickly touch on the game that we just saw in the World Cup, right? France versus Senegal, ended in a win for France. I don't think that was too surprising by anybody. But at the same time, we were maybe thinking there could be some sort of upset on the cards just because, Senegal, they're no mugs, right? They're not a side to be taken lightly. They got good players in their team, Mane, Sarr, um, Idrissa Gana Gueye in midfield, and Mendy in goal, experienced former Chelsea goalkeeper, as well as Koulibaly at the back. So, man, that's a good team with pace and power and strength and physicality. That's why, they're going up against a France side who has all that and more. But that's why we thought it might be an intriguing encounter. And it was 0-0 at halftime, right? So up until halftime, Senegal were in the game. But France just burst into life in that second half, and I think their attacking quality told. And listen, man, they're a problem. I said it before. Me, Murdad, and Laurent planned on putting out a bracket on the, our channel so you guys can see, and even on our socials so you guys can see our predictions. We did a little bracket prediction challenge to see who's going to win the World Cup and so on, who's going to progress quarterfinals, semifinals, all that. My winners, I picked France in my predictions. And again, that shouldn't be a massive surprise to anyone, really. They're just look at that team. I was putting out in my group chats before the game, screenshots of that starting 11. You had, you know, Maignan in goal. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, but the brother who plays for, I believe, is AC Milan, Maignan in goal. Um, and at right back, you had Jules Koundé, I think one of the best right backs around. You had Teo Hernandez, I believe, was at left back. Your center backs, Upamecano and William Saliba. William Saliba, from an Arsenal persuasion, obviously, and from Arsenal interest. That's our guy, one of our own, one of our best players. In our biased opinion, and maybe even an opinion that is commonly held by a lot of people, that Saliba is one of the best, if not the best center back in the world at the moment. Playing alongside him is Upamecano, experienced, plays for Bayern Munich. In midfield, you had two holders in Rabiot and Tchouaméni, and then in front of them, you have a front four with so much movement, so much freedom, so much ability. You have Doué, Mbappe, Ousmane Dembele and Olise. One of those is a Ballon d'Or winner, current Ballon d'Or winner in Ousmane Dembele. The other one of those, in my opinion, is the best attacking player in the world, in Kylian Mbappe. The other one in Olise in my opinion, the best right winger in the world at the moment. I think he's a fantastic player, Olise, and he floated across the front, the forward areas in this game. He played a lot in central areas. He played a lot sort of in a number 10 position, Olise, and Doué, who played off the left, also plays for PSG, two-time Champions League winner. And from what they have to bring off their bench, I mean, we saw Barcola come off the bench and score. Another person, player, a player focus that we can, potentially be looking at because he is, softly linked with a move to Arsenal. Scores coming off the bench in this game. They're bringing off Ryan Cherky off the bench in this game. It's just like it's insane, man. The depth that they have is the fact that they left a player like Camavinga at home, Real Madrid midfielder Camavinga, the fact that they didn't even take him in the squad. First of all, he could be in that squad. I'm not having it for a second that yes, that squad is deep, but you're telling me that Camavinga isn't better than a couple of the midfielders they took. I'm not buying that for a second. I rate Camavinga highly. So, but anyways, yeah, we know what they have in that team and in that squad. And I think in the second half, it really showed that they just had too much firepower in that final third um, for Senegal to deal with. And again, this is a good Senegal team. These guys are no slouch. We're talking about Senegal, the current AFCON winners. These guys are no slouch whatsoever. So, the fact that in the second half, France were just able to deal with them the way that they did, and I think that's just a case of, you're only able to contain an attack like that for so long, right? The game is 90 minutes. So for 45 minutes, maybe Senegal, yes, you can hold with a good defense and a good shape. But again, over a 90-minute game, to play against that attack for 90 minutes, 90 minutes plus, you'd have to have Mikel Arteta type tactics to deal with a forward line like that and to keep them out for 90 minutes. It's difficult. It's a long day at the office. And so eventually you knew that they were going to be able to penetrate France. In the first half, even Mbappe had some good chances to get in behind, some good through balls, but his touch, wasn't necessarily on point. Dembele the same, a couple loose touches, were on it, and a different occasion, a better touch could have got him in behind early doors in the first half, wasn't to be. But like I said, eventually they just grew into the game, and Olise's influence grew in the game. And he plays a beautiful ball in through the lines into the box for Mbappe's first goal. And again, it was a test of their patience because that goal didn't come for a good while. I think midway through the second half. So the way the second half started, it seemed like it was going to be more of the same. In the first half, it was going to be more of, you know, um, requiring patience and good defensive structure that France was going to have to find a way to break down. To be fair to Senegal, they did have a good go as well. They had a really good go, Senegal. They got forward, they broke forward a couple times and used their pace and their strength to get in behind, but obviously it wasn't to be for them up until they did get their goal, which I will talk about shortly. But yeah, for that first goal, again, it was just a brilliant bit of play on from France's side, right? At least they picking up the ball in central areas and picking a nice through ball into Mbappe, and Mbappe finishes first time. And like I said, they're only going to waste so many chances in a 90-minute game, right? You're only going to be able to contain them for so long before they just find ways to pick the lock. And it was again Olise, who a player, like I said, man, I think Olise, he's growing from strength to strength, since his move from Crystal Palace to Bayern Munich, and then now obviously on the world stage, he's doing it. I think he's just going to continue to get better and better. I think he's already one of the best players in the world at the moment. I'll go as far as to say that. I mean, I think that guy's gonna finish his career, provided he stays healthy as again one of the best players we've seen in this recent era. That's how highly I rate him, man. You know a baller when you see one, and Elise, he's just got it all, right? He's got the first of all, he's got the arrogance, he's got the aura about him, nonchalant style that makes him so dangerous. He beats players with ease. He can run past players on the wing. He can pick the ball up in central areas. He can score goals. He can whip the ball in the top corner with his left foot. He can play passes in behind and be playmaker for the likes of Kylian Mbappe. And his movement all over the pitch. He's a difficult player to pick up at times. So he's just got everything, man. And again, it's not like, this guy's he's just going to continue to get better and better because he's, you know, time is on his side. He's not at the end of his career. He's damn near right in the middle of it, and he's, in his prime, and he's going to peak. Who knows when he will actually peak, but it seems like right now he's doing his thing, and he's at the peak. He's certainly at the peak of his powers right here, right now, and there's definitely more to come from a player like that. So he's another one I'm more excited to keep watching throughout the tournament. And like I said, we barely even mentioned the Ballon d'Or winner's influence on this game. Ousmane Dembele, he's going to have a part to play at some point in this tournament too. Um, Mbappe is like I said, in my opinion, the best attacking player in the world at the moment. What a player he is. He is a handful and a half to mark, man. Honestly, like how do you mark a player like Mbappe? His pace, he can beat you from a standing position with his pace at times, right? Like just stand you up one on one and just put the ball, just that burst of pace, the yard he needs to just like they get that extra step to just burst past you like you're not even there, and he's away. Um, we kind of saw it in the instance when it was still 0-0, mind you. Um, with a potential penalty shot that they had. Mbappe burst down the right wing and got himself into the box past the first defender. I think it was Sadio Mane who came in and challenged. And in the end, after review, it was no penalty by the referee, stuck with the call. For me, anyways, I think Sadio Mane, I think it was who made the challenge in the box on Mbappe. For me, it was still a rash challenge. It was a brave one. And if in fact it was a silly one in my opinion. I'll never understand a player going to ground in the box like that when a forward is running in on goal. You don't just dive in, in the box. It's you're taking a massive risk by doing that. Don't go to ground. You don't need to slide tackle. But again, Sadio Mane, he's not even a defender. This was a typical forwards challenge, right? So, maybe you give him some grace there, but I see defenders do it all the time. Defenders will still, do a last ditch tackle and slide in the box like that when they have no chance of really winning the ball in those situations. Um, and it's just silly, just stand your ground. Even if they beat you, they beat you. They still got a lot. He's still got a lot of work to do from that point. He's not going to score from the when once he gets close to the goal line there, and he's still got to put the ball into the box and make the forwards try and do the rest, or the defenders got to get a toe on it or clear it, etc. So there's still a lot to do. Just don't dive in like that. These footballers should you'd think would know better, but hey, what do I know, right? I'm not a professional footballer, but yeah, they clearly it's a thing that they do it all the time. Maybe it's a rush of blood. Defenders will just go to ground in the box when they think the ball is there to be won, and completely mistime it. So fortunate in that instance for Sadio Mane, it wasn't a penalty. However, it wasn't too long after, like I said, that Olise picked the pass for Mbappe to open the scoring to make it 1-0. Shortly after that, like I said, the game is getting stretched. It's a little bit later on, and in the game, maybe Senegal's defense is switching off mentally, losing that bit of focus. Maybe it's fatigue and mental exhaustion. Barcola, they make a couple of the changes, and as Barcola comes off of the bench for France, fresh legs, movement in behind, he makes that run off of the left wing into a central area, picked out by I don't remember who played the pass, to be fair. But Barcola runs in off the left into a central area, keeps himself onside, dinks the keeper, chips the keeper. It's 2-0, and at that point, yeah, you're already thinking game over. And again, this is just another quality player, and Barcola coming off the bench. Again, himself a two-time Champions League winner, scored I think in the Champions League final last year against Inter Milan. Bright young player, I think 23 years of age. And then maybe again a player who's too good to be sitting on the bench at PSG. And again, it's a player that a lot of people are talking about over the last couple of days and the last couple of weeks, especially from an Arsenal persuasion, right? Will Barcola be on the move? And can he come to an Arsenal team? An Arsenal right now is in need of an upgrade on the left wing. The debate has been, is Barcola actually an update on the left wing? Because does he have enough end product? He's quick and he's got skill and he's got pace. He's direct, but does he have the end product? And can he be a game changer? Because what Arsenal Football Club needs right now is a game changer, right? We need somebody who, when the game is tight, when it's a 0-0, who's going to be our version of an Mbappe, so for argument's sake, who's going to be the one that's going to win a game for us, right? Is Barcola clutch enough? Is he enough of a match winner? Does he have that stardust to carry a team? Yes, he can be part of a team that has stars around it already. Can he be the main man in an Arsenal team? And can he be the main man or a talisman in the focal point of an attack to carry us and give us the goals and give us the end product, give us the assists that we would need, right, to see us over the line to help improve this attack that's pretty dull at the moment, to be honest with you. Can he be that guy? That's a lot of people are questioning, right? Does he have that extra bit? Or is he just going to be another slight upgrade on a Martinelli? A better version of a Martinelli or better version of a Trossard without end product. Is he one of those? Because as we know, the market isn't great at the moment for wingers and specifically left wingers. The best of the best are, let's be honest, Mbappe, if he plays on that side, which he plays striker for Real Madrid at times across the front three, and it doesn't necessarily lock down the position, but Mbappe, I think notoriously is best off of the left. Vinny Jr. and Kvaratskhelia at PSG. Other than that, I'm looking at left wingers. Luis Diaz at Bayern, of course, he's class. But there aren't too many, top world class left wingers at the moment. Once upon a time, I think that market was fantastic when you had the likes of Neymar, Sadio Mane, Eden Hazard. You had Alexis Sanchez at Arsenal, and then a few others that is not coming to mind at the moment. But that quality of left winger once upon a time was, you can find them in abundance, not too long ago. But this day and age, the left wingers, I think in this era, You're finding it hard to find ones that are of that level, that superstar quality that will really, can be the ones to carry a team. So Arsenal has a difficult decision to make there. But can Barcola be that guy for us? Again, he is young, so maybe he still has time to develop that. Do we have time to sit there and hope that we sign a player like him to develop to be that guy, or do we need a ready-made guy already? Because we have aspirations now to try and win the Champions League, to win multiple trophies in a season, to go again in the Premier League and maybe go back to back. So, anyways, Barcola is class. All that to say, Barcola is class. If he has a good tournament, right? He started off hot already with a goal today and a couple good runs, dangerous down that flank. But if he continues to do well, who knows? He'll probably continue to attract more interest, and maybe turn Arsenal's head to think that he can be that left winger for us. Um, Now that makes it 2-0, and I think at that point, like I said, it's looking like the game is over. But Senegal do bounce back with a good goal of their own, and again, it just goes to show, they're still a good side that carry some punch. They're going to cause trouble in this tournament for sure. Senegal, don't make any mistakes about it. France is the favorites, probably the most talented team in the tournament. So it's not a negative thing per se to lose to this French team. So for them to bring a counter punch and get a goal to bring it back to 2-1 late in the game, I think is fair enough and reasonable and fair play to them for finding, something to give their fans something to cheer about to leave the game with, but I think that was quickly shut down because once they made it 2-1 and they scored their goal, Mbappe just scores so far probably the goal of the tournament with a screamer from how many yards out, who knows, you know, 30, 40 yards out, whatever it is, like that screamer from Mbappe that literally I'm pretty sure the Senegal fans and the players are still celebrating when they scored their goal, but Mbappe does what Mbappe does, and immediately after that, gets a goal from long range, way outside the box. That just again shuts everything up, shuts all the Senegal, fans up in terms of the retaliation of the goal that they score, right? Mbappe just what a player he is, and a lot of people complain about Mbappe and his arrogance and is he this, is he that? Is he a dictator, bad for the locker room? Um, and if a player like Mbappe wasn't available, right? Because we hear about the turmoil at Real Madrid and what's going on over there, or at least what was going on over there at the back end of the season. Fans turning on Mbappe, Real Madrid fans turning on Mbappe. Is he a scapegoat? If he became available, which he isn't now, I think that's been shut down by the president and so on, saying that Mbappe is the best player in the world and he's staying with us. But if he was available, I mean, there were conversations amongst Arsenal fans themselves saying, would you take Mbappe if he became available? And a lot of Arsenal fans, were kind of turning their head at that, saying, oh, he wouldn't be good for the dressing room. He wouldn't work well with Mikel Arteta. He's got an attitude problem. He's a selfish player, this and that, got an ego, all these things. Which a lot of that reigns true because again, you've seen what happened since he's left PSG. PSG have gone on to win back-to-back Champions Leagues. And Mbappe's still waiting for his first. And now Mbappe's at Real Madrid, and ever since Mbappe's come to Real Madrid, they've been in turmoil. They haven't had the right personnel on the pitch. There's been a clash of egos. There's been, like I said, personnel issues, and maybe one or two players like a Vinny, like a Rodrigo, um, not necessarily clicking with Mbappe because positionally maybe things don't work on the pitch. Chemistry wise, maybe things don't work on the pitch. You see it affect Jude Bellingham because Mbappe is taking up central striker spaces, which used to be a space that Jude Bellingham used to occupy with late runs into the box. So is Jude Bellingham and Mbappe's spaces, are they operating in the same spaces? And is that therefore clashing with Jude Bellingham and making Jude Bellingham have to change the game, change his game when, the way he was playing that season, I think won them the Champions League. So in 2024, I believe it was when they won the Champions League. So yeah, man, it's a lot to consider there, right? And again, I understand all these things and I hear all these things as to, wherever Mbappe may be going at the moment, whether it's France, Real Madrid, PSG, like, it seems there's issues, there's politics, there's infighting. Um, but there's no denying the player that is Mbappe, If he became available, forget wages for a minute, right? Forget wages. Say wages were actually a non-issue, and you just had the chance to sign the player. Maybe even like, for I don't know, however close to 100 mil. Forget the wages. Like I said, pretend the wages aren't a thing. If you had the chance to sign the player Mbappe for 100 mil, um, would you take him at Arsenal? My answer, despite what everyone else, not everyone else, because a lot of people, like I said, will still take him. But again, the common consensus amongst us Arsenal fans and a lot of them that I'm hearing and that I'm knowing is, oh no, his attitude, he disrupt the dressing room. We have a good team camaraderie. Simple as this for me. He like I said, he's the best attacking player in the world, despite the turmoil and whatever that he brings or he carries with him and the politics and the drama. He performs on the pitch. He does his thing, as we saw today for France. He scored his two goals, two wonder goals. And it goes to show the class player that he is. He, in my opinion, is the best attacking player in the world. He put up his numbers for Real Madrid this season, and even in the back end of last season, he put up his numbers. He's done his job. He's scoring his goals. Can you find a way to make that player work? And that's what I would say to a Mikel Arteta. I would take a player like him at Arsenal 100% because he's the best attacking player in the world, in my opinion. Henri had an attitude problem. Wayne Rooney had attitude problems. It just took the right managers to deal with those egos and fine tune them in a way to get the best out of the team and the player. If a player like Mbappe becomes available, you have to take that risk. What do? You turn your head at Mbappe if he's available, if he's on the market. We're Premier League champions now. Maybe when we were eighth, I would say I would understand and I would say, hey, we're no chance we should be in the market for a player like that. Um, when we're kind of in the mud, we're not even in the Champions League, etc. But now that we're Premier League champions, and Champions League finalists, if a player like that is on the market, you can't just watch and let him go maybe to another club without, putting up a fight or putting your name in the ring, especially when you need a player potentially in that position. And this is what I'm talking about, man management and fine-tuning a player to say, hey, Mbappe, come over to Arsenal. We need a left winger. You fit right into that left wing slot and do your thing for us. I mean, it's not like we have what Real Madrid did, right? When they already had a Vinny Jr. and they came and brought in a Kylian Mbappe, who, in my opinion, plays best off of the left, but him and Vinny are occupying the same spaces. They're both playing on that left wing, right? Left wing is Vinny's. It's not like at Arsenal, we don't have a certified left winger. So Mbappe come in and lock down that left wing. It's as simple as that, really. So it's not like we'd be looking at a player who in a position where we already have. No, we don't have a left winger at this moment in time. Hey, Mbappe, if you're available, you come to Arsenal Football Club. At least we try our best, or at least we inquire and put our name in the hat to try and sign him. Because that's how good he is. That's the kind of game changer he can be. Yes, he's got these issues and that issues, but what world-class player doesn't? And as he's shown today for France, he is too good of a player to turn your nose up at. I'm sorry. I don't know who we think we are, where, we're too good for Mbappe. We haven't even we're a club that haven't even won the first Champions League as yet. He's a player that can help us win our first Champions League. So, listen, all that to say, when if a player like that becomes available, I'm not hearing all these other people at the moment who say they wouldn't take him. Um, I think that's ridiculous. He's too good of a player to say that about, in my opinion. Um, yeah. But listen, yeah, France again, particularly for me, again, because we have an Arsenal player in there, right? Who in William Saliba, right? We're just talking about the forward players at the moment, but we have to keep a big eye on our guy, William Saliba, right, as Arsenal fans, because first of all, he's been carrying a knock, his back injury going into this tournament. So how will he last? If you are like me and think France is going all the way, that means Saliba's probably going to get minimal rest in this tournament. He's going to play a pivotal role for the country. So on one end, as an Arsenal fan, you're happy for our Arsenal boys, but at the same time, you want him to get some sort of rest if he can, because it's going to affect us going into next season. So, anyways, good for William Saliba. Happy for him and happy for our players to do well and for the nations to do well. Um, we just got to hope that he's okay to last the tournament and comes back in decent shape for us. So definitely eyes are on France, not just because of the Arsenal involvement, but also because of the fact that they're a brilliant team to watch. They're my favorites to win it. Um, the attacking players that they have are attacking players that we would love at Arsenal Football Club. Can we indeed snatch a player like that? A player from that France attack to come to Arsenal Football Club? Not Kylian Mbappe, but a more realistic one in a Bradley Barcola. Can we bring that talent to Arsenal Football Club? Would you want that talent at Arsenal Football Club? Let me know in the comments and let me know what you guys think. If Barcola indeed is at least a player that you think is realistic enough, do you think he's good enough? Do you think he's of the level to take us to the higher level as a club to win Champions Leagues and so on? Will Barcola be the solution for us in attacking on that left wing? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Um, but yeah, you already know, guys. Of course, as an Arsenal affiliates, we have a lot of you know interest in France and the French national team in in France in the World Cup because of the French players that graced this club over the years, the legends, right? The likes of Thierry Henry and Petit and Patrick Vieira and you know Pires and so on and so forth, right? And then obviously on a lesser scale, we had players like Sagna and Clichy and shout out Abu Dhabi. We've had a lot of Arsene Wenger himself. So there's a lot of French connection at Arsenal Football Club, as you guys all know. We love our French players, and therefore we have an eye on France. And because we do have a current French player in William Saliba with the national team. So listen, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Is Bradley Barcola that guy um, to come to Arsenal and change the way for us? Do you guys also think that France are the favorites? And do you think that France will win the World Cup? I'm strongly of the belief that France will win. Again, winners in 2018, finalists in 2022. They're always there or thereabouts. They're too good. They're too powerful of a nation and as of a squad with the personnel and the players that they have. They'll be there or thereabouts again. I have no doubt about it. But do you guys let me know what you guys think if you agree, if you think that they're the favorites, if you think that they will win it, if you're confident that they will win it. I'm just excited to see what the rest of those attacking players are going to do in this tournament because they will be a problem. They'll continue to damage the oppositions. They're going to score goals. There's no doubt about it. I'd be surprised if anyone, held them to a clean sheet in the tournament. I think they'll score in every game they play. Will they win every game they play is another story, but they will definitely score. And I'm still predicting them to win it all. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like and subscribe. It's been your boy CJ from the Gunners Corner, and I'll talk to y'all soon, leaving you from the home of the Premier League champions. We're out, people. Bye bye.